Okay, lahat nitong pinag-uusapan natin, let's relate to the Pax Asiatica, yung Asian century. So we're discussing gold because we're trying to understand how Russia, China, India is dealing with this shift of responsibility for the world economy onto its shoulder. And we have some controversy over whether gold is being accumulated or not officially and so on. So, but there is no question, the economy, the global economy is shifting to Asia. Everybody admits that. Even the West admits that.
You have industrializing economies led by China, India. You had the
energy of Russia and the Middle East.
Oil and gas of Russia. And Russia does have basically technological skills, which maybe now they'll be forced to develop, basically because of their economic crisis brought about by the Ukraine and all this kind of stuff.
But remember, Kerry went to visit Russia already, which some interpret as crying uncle, and you win.
Because they cannot fix what they have broken in Ukraine.
You have to understand that the Russian problem, basically, again, was because of the refusal of the U.S. to pave the way for the transition of the former Soviet Union into a viable market economy. The Harvard boys basically screwed up even the privatization scheme. And that resulted basically in the massive destruction of,
in other words, the Western powers, instead of helping, they were trying to destroy the economy. So
they wanted basically to, it was basically U.S. triumphalism that they said, screw them.
Yeah, but in practical effect, to just convert Russia into a raw materials provider and a market for goods. So the classic imperialist formula.
And because they wanted Russia to remain a resource-based economy.
Precisely, to extract oil and gas.
By the way, the sanctions against Russia have not been working.
That's right.
In fact, Russia is on its way to a better recovery now because they have been able to establish their independence from the Western market. So this is a more robust, a stronger, and more stable Russia. As compared to the U.S., there is massive unemployment. The income gap between the rich and the poor is getting wider. The workers in the McDonald's are on strike.
Lobbying
and
for...
as compared with Asia, you can see, look at China. They have one of the biggest, if not the biggest population in this whole earth, and yet they are importing labor. Kulang pa sila sa tao. So you can see the development, the actual physical development as compared to the financial magic that is bringing down the West.
Going back to Russia and the Asian century and what imperial overreach is causing to help the Asian century. Instead of buying from Western Europe, Russia is now buying beef from Brazil, other foodstuffs from Chile.
You know, the sanctions that they placed on Russia basically were minimal because they even did not dare to isolate Russia from the international payment system.
Well, they threatened, remember?
No, that was just...
That was just a threat. That was just a threat.
Again, despite the issues ongoing in the world today, the economies of Russia, Germany, there is a high degree of integration. The economies of China, the US, and other ASEAN countries, and even with the European community, economies are integrated. Okay? And even the financial markets are heavily integrated. And that is the problem that you have today. Okay? Let's look at the last visit of Modi to India.
To China.
To China. India still houses the largest number of Tibetan refugees, but that's not the point of discussion. The Dalai Lama used India as a refuge. Okay, that's not the point of discussion.
In other words, the territorial issues are very
they're
minor,
put to one side.
The
issues of territory up in the area where Chinese troops and Indian troops face each other.
If India can do that, why can't the Philippines?
And these are very serious, basically, territorial disputes.
And tens of thousands have been killed in
the past. Not that tens of thousands. I mean, they have come to blows, okay? But still, on another level, because of the emergence of India and China, basically, into the global economy, okay, their integration into global economy has caused vast ripples into the Western economies, and it has affected the finances and financial markets, okay? And that is a big problem because the financial architecture in place, put in by the US, is now obsolete, and it is creating massive strains. And the US refuses, basically. The US Congress and the US political system is highly dysfunctional because of these economic problems that the US is facing. Because the shift from agri to industry, you had the Great Depression. Now you have a massive shift, basically from manufacturing and the industrial sector into the service economy, which the highly industrialized economies have to basically adjust to. This evolutionary process, which has been written about for years, basically, is what is causing all these problems, because the problems of capitalism have not been solved.
What is very clear is that the Pax Asiatica is here to stay.
Oh, yeah.
And it will grow, and the Philippines is being left behind because it is not waking up to this reality.
America has not helped us. For example, America pushed us in this situation. We are now locked in with regards to China, having an antagonistic relationship towards China, antagonistic stance towards China, that now our fishermen can no longer fish in their traditional fishing grounds. Millions of Filipinos are now starving, going in hunger because they can no longer fish in these traditional fishing grounds. What has the United States offered as an alternative?
I'm under the impression that actually the Scarborough, for example, is still open to fishermen of all.
But not recently. Not
well,
recently.
there are occasions.
What I'm saying is, if we enter into a bilateral talks with China, bilateral talks which China has been offering to us, and not keep on insisting on multilateral talks which has been imposed on us by the United States, then we can have a breakthrough, and we can probably have more benefits for our economy than what we have now.
So, in the last 10 minutes, I want to move on. There's no hope of changing the Philippine policy that is anachronistic in the next year and a half, or in the next year.
Philippine foreign policy is tied to basically the economic policy, which is basically already dictated and determined by the multilateral financial institutions. We are locked into that because we decided to get into that, because we had no choice. We were heavily in debt, etc., etc.
But we should always try
to
have
no choice as long as we have this government.
As long
but
as
it has been demonstrated time and again by different revolutions in the world, like for example in Venezuela, and also in Russia itself, and in China itself. Remember that China was...
So that's what I want to move on to. How do we change this? If we have the present leadership, people are crossing out any hope of any change from now until the next election. But in the next election, what are the choices? We hear nothing about economic policy changes, foreign relation policy changes.
The Philippines has always long been a captive state. Okay, we have been operating under that
How do we change
handcuff.
things?
And
how do we change things?
Essentially, the financial structure of the Philippine economy is still basically dependent. We have a total foreign debt, both private and public, of about 60 billion. Okay, we have 80 billion
reserves.
In reserves. But that was, again, an accident, basically.
Of the OFW industry?
The OFW, because of the monetary policy of both the U.S. and the Eurozone.
And loans.
No, our loans now are only 37, as far as public.
But they also comprise our foreign reserves.
But all these are
and
there.
And that basically has always put us on track, basically to be a dependent economy. We are highly import
we know that. We know that.
So if you are
So
import dependent,
how are we
cure
going to
the
change
situation?
this?
it takes a massive
Well, I want to think in
enlightenment
terms
program.
of practical options for the nation. Ano bang magagawa ng taong bayan?
What did China do? What did Cuba do?
Yun, revolusyon. Kaya ba natin? That's another subject
what
matter.
did Russia do? What did Putin do?
But within the system, Russia had Putin, which was a surprise to everybody, di ba? Who was a surprise to everybody. We have no surprises here. The candidate of Washington CC, that little lady puppet na yun, I call her a puppet, makinig ng taong bayan, puppet yan, tulad ni Noy Noy. Ano? Yung kabilang option naman, si Binay, may karanasan, pero yung karanasan mukhang maling karanasan at hindi yung talagang makakatulong. Ano? We have no options there in the next election, do we?
Well, somebody...
Can we put up somebody? Who would you recommend?
I would not like to get into scenario building of political
But we
system
have to.
because the entire issue remains the same. This economy,
The policies you're saying.
the economic policies.
Yeah, but
since
it's still going to be leadership personalities
again,
to embody policies.
to shift, okay, I will call it this way. You call a spade a spade. The creative destruction that is necessary to reverse these
Creative
policies.
destruction, which is in other words, revolution.
When I say creative destruction, even the economic policy will create a form of creative destruction to move from exclusive economic policies to inclusive
Siguro,
will create massive.
I'm pushing for concrete personality, practicable options for people in the next elections. No? Ang problema, walang magdahas, walang magtapang na magsabi, hindi, ako kandidato for a revolution. Kailangan natin... Si Duterte matapang. Napapatayin niya lahat ng mga korap o ano.
Pero
But that's not revolution.
Hindi niya nasusugpo yung smuggling out of the dollar, of the gold, in the Davao area from our country. And Marcos was on the right track. No? Yung 11 major industrial projects, yung independence, yung pagtatayo ng mga paggawa ng barko, shipbuilding, at meron na tayong mga barko, bumibili tayo ng langis.
Sige. We don't
diba?
have to go to the details.
We need somebody like that.
Do
no?
we have
who will look towards Asia, di ba?
Anybody in the horizon na pwede na ikandidato sa 2016 na?
Well,
Wala
maybe Marcos Jr. may
Si Bongbong,
if
okay.
he promises to be true to what his father did, then he can be a viable option. And somebody else who will follow the Marcos formula. For all his faults, the best president that we had is still Marcos eh. Biro mo, nuclear power plant, di ba? Geothermal power plants.
The best,
Filseco, Baseco.
the closest to that is Bongbong, and Bongbong still has to show as much the brilliance, political savvy.
If he can show his mettle, his true mettle, in this BBL, no, if he will stand up against the United States Institute of Peace and the British and the Malaysians and not approve this BBL, then he can implement these economic policies.
Si Hiro is no admirer of Marcos, but you owe the nation an option in terms of a leadership personality. Why not produce one among that ideological front?
Again, the entire economic political system would lead to the educational system in this country is flawed. Okay?
Well, we know that.
So
We
even the
grant that.
leadership, okay, your elite, your managerial classes here are all working with...
We know that also.
So these are basically the people who run the country.
Alam natin yan lahat.
Now,
we want to move forward. Why not run Jimmy Regalario as a candidate for president? You know? You have to run some people.
the whole issue of moving back or turning back the clock in spite of these globalization efforts, as signing on to WTO, being a staunch IMF, World Bank acolyte, like I said, it will take a tremendous effort. And
Of
the
course,
issue
we know
of
that.
creative
Kung wala tayong
destruction.
mabibigay na pangalan, Bongbong might just run away with it.
It's yeah, and I'm sure that once he passes this metal test that I say with regards to the BBL, then he will have the affection of the Filipino people, and he will thus have the political capital to embark on massive industrialization.
You don't think little Miss Poppet will make statements to the effect that we need this change, that change, and so on? I doubt it, because her sponsor is Washington CSIP. That already
the question is, where was Madam Po when we were struggling against the Arroyo dictatorship, for example? She was abroad. She has always been abroad. She was
what
not
about
even...
Binay? Okay, Binay.
Well, we cannot have somebody like Binay who will do everything just to have power and stay in power. Because that's precisely the kind of people that the Americans want and the oligarchs want to have in Malacanang. What we want to have is somebody who has been victimized by the oligarchs, victimized by the Westerners, and who is this person?
So,
it's Bongbong.
Hero, that's always the disadvantage of the ideological movements in the country. They cannot come up with a physical option for people to choose.
You're asking them to enter the political system that has been responsible for
what is happening.
What is happening.
But are there options now?
No.
Are there options?
There are none.
The NPA is very, very far from
the leftist
success.
organizations or the insurgencies ongoing have failed to gain ground. Again, because of the shifts. Okay, we've had this phenomenon of Filipinos leaving the country. And
that's a big factor. No?
Another option is Bono Adasa.
Okay.
He has a formula wherein he says that he will just sit because he does not believe in elections.
Yeah.
So that's another option. But if we will follow the Constitution and the law, we have, of course, I am not endorsing Bongbong Marcos. I am not telling people to vote for him, but he is a viable option.
We have last 2 minutes. What about the Trillanes option? Ang kulang lang kay Senator Trillanes, he's saying he's just aiming for vice presidency. So he's not an option for the ultimate leadership that people
not in
looking
2016,
for. Not in
but
2016.
maybe after 2016.
Does that mean we have so limited a choice in 2016? Yun ang problema. But anyway, the nation will have to deal with this problem.
And there's also ERAP, by the way. He just said that if Binay will not run, he will be running again.
But he also said that if Po runs, he will support Po.
Well, let's see. No?
We'll have to see.
He said that, remember that he said that the presidency is providential. So, malalim yan. Ibig sabihin yan, baka tumakbo siya. No?
Okay, sino ba dito ang pwedeng Asian leader? I think is ERAP lang. Di ba? Talagang may orientation.
Pag nagsama yung ERAP Bongbong, ERAP for president, Bongbong for vice president, palagay ko, mahirapan sila.
Ikaw, last 60 seconds for you, Jairo.
Again, I hate to be put on the spot that way because
No, you don't have to because we know you do not have a personality leader
No, I
propose,
do not believe in the present system.
But then let's focus, the last 30 seconds, Pax Asiatica.
Oh, essentially that is unstoppable because the bulk of the population of the planet is on this side of the world and
developed already.
They are moving up the developmental ladder.
And so, as an ending to our discussion, kailangan natin liderato na oriented sa bagong Asian century at hindi na yung tuta ng Amerikano o ng kanluran.
Let's take the road to Bandung. The road to Bandung. And before that, there was Baguio. Nakalimutan na natin yan. Before Bandung, there was Baguio.
Bandung was a non-aligned movement meeting.
The
And yung Baguio, ano yun?
Baguio, it was the start. Kinopya na lang ng Indonesia yun.
Okay.
The original formula was Filipino.
Okay.
But Baguio.
So let's remember, discussion begins on Pax Asiatica. And this program will continue to expand your understanding of this. Maraming salamat po and have a good weekend. Salamat, Hero. Salamat, Ferdy. We're still